Hello from Slide Nerd and hello from Vivs. All talk and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So let's go ahead in Eclipse and actually make our app which shows the life cycle. Everything I have said so far in the last 3 bits, it's gonna merge as one piece and you're gonna see this thing work. So first, I'm having Eclipse over here. I'll go to File. I'll say New Android Application Project. I'll call it Vivs Activity Lifecycle. Package name, I'll give it slidenerd.vivs. Now minimum required, I'm gonna give honeycomb over here. Alright, a latest version for the target, compile with blah theme something. Okay, click next. No need for a custom launcher icon, click next. Alright, click next. Main activity, alright, let it be as it is, click finish. So at this point, your Eclipse has built everything over here for you guys. You don't have to even write 1 ounce of code for this. If you see source, you go see the package which you created, which was slidenerd.vivs in my case. The main activities over here. If I can open the file right over here, you can see some stuff written inside, right? And there is your res folder over here. There's the layout file, which is activity main.xml, which is over here. Here I'm seeing the graphical layout. I can click the XML layout also to see the stuff in XML format, right? I have the manifest over here. Again, if you see, open the manifest, there was a lot of things written in here. In an earlier bit, which was hello world explanation, I had explained everything about what this is and stuff. So if you guys don't know what it means, you can go ahead and check my earlier bit. Now here I'm going to simply go into my main activity and start building the life cycle. So first, let's go ahead, remove that menu thing over there. And now here, I'm going to use my log.d, right? Log.debug. I'm going to give it a tag. Let me give the tag as Vivs, and the message as on create was called. So what will happen is this: when your activity actually, when your Android OS actually launches your activity, this on create is going to be called. If you're wondering what this bundle saved instance state means, don't worry too much about it. I'm going to go into this in the next bit when I talk about activities in more depth. For now, what will happen is your log.d, this line will be executed, and you will see this statement on create was called over here somewhere in the log window, right? And you'll have the tag as Vivs. All right, so now let me go ahead and make the other methods. If you remember, there was on resume over here. Actually, it was on resume. Yep. Let me override each of the methods. Now you're probably wondering what is super.onResume does. In all the lifecycle methods in activity, you have to make sure that you call the parent class implementation of that method. This takes care of some default behavior, and you're not supposed to remove this statement. If you remove this, your app is gonna crash. All right, don't do that. So with that being said, here again you can see super.onCreate is there, right? So make sure you have those statements everywhere. Now on resume, on start, let me put all those methods. On pause, on stop, there was on destroy, on restart over here. If you remember, on restart is called when you're away from your activity and you're back inside and your activity has not been destroyed, and that is the time when on restart is called. And there is on destroy ultimately, right? Now in each of these methods, I'm simply gonna go ahead, put my log.d statement, copy paste it everywhere. Let me do that. So now that I have copy pasted stuff, let me go ahead and actually edit stuff. For example, in on resume, I'll say on resume was called, and so on in all the methods. Okay, now at this point, I'm done renaming all the methods. As you can see, in on destroy, I have written log.d, Vivs on destroy was called, and so on in everywhere in all the methods, right? So let me go ahead and run this in our emulator by pressing this run icon button over at the top. Run as Android application, click OK. So here my emulator is started up. It's gonna take a lot of time. This is one of the problems which you have with your Android emulator. It's not as fast as your J2ME emulator or BlackBerry emulator. So here I have my activity, which is bam. So here I have my Vivs activity lifecycle over here. All right. So if I click on this, as you guys can see in the logcat, something is going to happen over here. It goes to the console. Okay, there you see. There's a lot of messages. On create was called, on start was called, on resume was called. Let me guess, we are inside our app which says hello world, right? These 3 methods are called. Now let me make things easier to see over here by adding something called logcat filter. So what this does is, as you guys can see, there's a lot of mess over here. There is something from Dalvik tag, there is from trace tag. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter over here which is going to enable so that I can see only these messages, the ones which have the tag Vivs on them. So let me go ahead and say, click add filter name. I'll call it my personal filter over here by log tag Vivs. Click OK. Now if you see over here in my personal filter, now this shows only those messages on the logcat which have the tag Vivs. So this is a simple way of filtering stuff out. As you guys can see over here on create, let me maximize the logcat for you guys to see. So here You have your on create, on start, on resume. Now let's play with the app activity and see what happens. Now let's see if I click the home button over here, as you guys can see, on pause is first called, then after the activity exits, on stop is called, right? So let's go back by clicking the back. Okay, the back doesn't work over here. Let's go to another app by first let's go to the app section. Activity Lifecycle, bam, start it again. It says on restart, on start, on resume. You guys notice that? Okay, so now let me start another app by over here by say clicking this phone button for dialer. So it's gonna jump out of this app, right? And at that time on pause was called, and then on stop is also going to be called over here. Now if I click the back button over here, again it says on restart, on start, on resume is this common syntax, right? So whenever you move out of your app and you come back, it's going to be on restart, on start, on resume. You guys can clearly see that. Now let me show you something which I have not shown you so far. Let me change the orientation of this. Now this is currently in portrait mode. Let me switch to landscape on the emulator by pressing Ctrl F11. Now if you see this has completely changed everything, right? And look at what happens over here. On pause, on stop, on destroy, on create, on start, on resume. All 6 methods are called just because of this. Now if you guys didn't observe that carefully, take a look. I'll switch back again by pressing Ctrl F11 to portrait mode, and take a look. On pause, on stop, on destroy, on create, on start, on resume. All 6 methods are called. Now you're probably wondering why that happens. Remember, when you change the orientation, you're completely changing the spacing arrangements, and as such, whatever you have drawn on the screen needs to be destroyed. Alright, so that's what Android does by calling all those methods in succession. And again, it is your activities created back using the on create. The on create is called a second time over here. If you remember, it was called in the beginning, and there was no on create in between whenever we moved out of the app or whenever we switched to a different app, right? But it was called as soon as we changed the orientation. So with that being said, I hope you guys have understood something out of this vid. There is still a lot to cover as far as activities are concerned. In the next video, I'm going to start talking about bundle. I'm going to start talking about on save instance state, and I'll jump deeper into the different methods of activity, the different conditions, which methods are guaranteed to be called, which cannot or may not be called by the system, and so on. So if you like whatever you see, please subscribe to my channel, comment, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Have a nice day.